Indonesia, a vast country with thousands of islands, is not only famous for its beautiful natural landscapes but also for its unique traditions and festivals. From strange customs such as living with the dead, sleeping with strangers for good luck, to the way to make the most expensive coffee in the world, all will surprise people. Click follow and join us to discover the interesting and strange stories of this country right away. 1. Living with the dead. To outsiders, the idea of keeping a dead person's body in the house may seem strange. But for the more than 1 million people in this Toraja region of Sulawesi, eastern Indonesia, it is a tradition that dates back centuries. After a person dies, it can take months, sometimes years, before a funeral takes place. During that time, the family keeps the body in the house and cares for it as if it were just sick. The body is still served food, drinks, and cigarettes twice a day, bathed and dressed regularly. The deceased even has a chamber pot in the corner of the room to serve as a toilet. The dead are never left alone. Lamps are always lit for them after dark. Families worry that if they don't take proper care of the body, the spirit of their deceased loved one will cause them trouble. Traditionally, special leaves and herbs are rubbed on the body to preserve it. But nowadays, they inject the corpse with the preservative chemical formalin instead. It leaves a very strong pungent smell in the room. The body leaves the house in an incredibly lavish funeral after a large parade around the village. Buffaloes are believed to be the carriers of the soul to the afterlife, so families sacrifice as many buffaloes as they can to help the deceased travel smoothly. The Torajans spend much of their lives saving for these rituals. Once families have saved enough, they invite friends and relatives from all over the world. The wealthier the deceased was, the larger and more elaborate the rituals. The Torajans rarely bury their dead in the ground. Instead, they are buried in family tombs or placed inside or outside caves. Because this is a mountainous region, there are many of them. These caves are also a place where the afterlife seems to be connected to this life. Sometimes stretching for miles, these mountain caves are filled with coffins and corpses, and even skulls and bones. Friends and family bring necessities for their dead loved ones, often money and cigarettes. 2. Monkeys love to steal valuables. At the Uluwatu Temple in Bali, Indonesia, the monkeys are the main tourist attraction and the source of income for the staff here. However, the long-tailed macaques that roam here have also developed a business of their own, robbing tourists in exchange for food. Researchers have found that these monkeys are skilled at judging the value of their victims' belongings and using this ability to maximize their profits. These monkeys prefer to target items that people are more likely to exchange for food, such as electronics, rather than less valuable items, such as hair clips or camera bags. Mobile phones, wallets, and glasses are among the high-value items targeted by the monkeys. These monkeys have become experts at preying on uninformed tourists who do not heed the advice of staff to put all their valuables in locked bags and wear them on their chests or backs. The bargaining process between a monkey robber, a tourist, and a temple staff usually lasts from a few minutes to half an hour. For items of lower value, the monkeys will accept smaller rewards. What is special is that the monkeys at Uluwatu Temple are completely wild animals, not undergoing any training or experimentation. 3. Have s.ex with strangers for good luck. Pon is one of the world's strangest festivals held by a tribe on the island of Java, Indonesia, 7 times a year. At that time, thousands of tourists and pilgrims gather in a temple on the sacred mountain Gunung Kemukus to perform a sexual ritual. Participants must soak and bathe in spring water to purify their bodies. Then each person finds a stranger to pair up with. The couple will have sex on the same night of the ritual. The partner cannot be the spouse of that person. To receive luck and blessings from the gods, they need to have sex with the same person 7 times in a row. Therefore, they will exchange phone numbers and addresses to complete the ritual that lasts for 35 days. Most of the participants are business owners or traders. They believe that if they do it enough, their business will become more and more prosperous and successful. Because of this strange custom, Gunung Kemukus is also known as the Hill of Sex, with the center being the mosque located on the top of the mountain. Here, men and women from different professions, regardless of marital status, can participate to pray for luck and money. The Pond Festival was born based on a legend from the 16th century. At that time, a young Indonesian prince had a relationship with his stepmother. They ran away to the mountain and were discovered and killed while doing that right on the top of Gunung Kemukus. Since then, the people of Java Island believe that if they complete this act, money and luck will come to them. At its peak, the hill attracts up to 8,000 people a night. This is surprising because in an Islamic country like Indonesia, where adultery is considered taboo, such a ritual exists. 4. Jakarta will no longer be the capital in the future. Indonesia has decided to relocate its capital from Jakarta to Nusantara, situated in the lush rainforests of Borneo, to address the severe challenges faced by Jakarta and to mark a new beginning for the nation. Jakarta, with a metropolitan population of up to 30 million people, is one of the most densely populated cities in the world, but is burdened by significant issues such as land subsidence, flooding, air pollution, and severe traffic congestion. The city is sinking at a rate of up to 25 centimeters per year, resulting in frequent flooding, with its outdated drainage system unable to cope. Air and water pollution levels have exceeded safe standards many times over, posing serious health risks to residents. These challenges, coupled with glaring income inequality and the looming threats of climate change, have made Jakarta increasingly unlivable, with the dire possibility of the city being submerged in the coming decades if immediate action is not taken. The new capital, Nusantara, being developed in Borneo, symbolizes a sustainable and modern fresh start. Located far from seismic and volcanic zones, Nusantara is surrounded by rich tropical rainforests, providing an ideal setting for a green city. The Indonesian government has invested over $30 billion in this project, with a phased construction plan spanning from 2022 to 2045. The city is being designed intelligently, utilizing 80% renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and hydropower. Modern transportation systems, including public transit, aim to reduce congestion and minimize environmental impact. Nusantara is envisioned not only as the seat of government, but also as a new hub for economic, technological, and innovative activities, creating thousands of jobs and earning its place as the Silicon Valley of Southeast Asia. Number 5. The top records of Indonesia. Although not the country with the most islands in the world, Indonesia is the country with the most islands in Asia, with more than 17,000 islands, of which about 6,000 are inhabited. The total area of Indonesia is nearly 2 million square kilometers, specifically 119,440 square kilometers, and has a coastline of 54,716 kilometers. That makes Indonesia the country with the second longest coastline in the world, after Canada. This is the only place in the world where you can find the Komodo dragon, a large and powerful animal. Because it lies on the Pacific Ring of Fire, Indonesia has hundreds of volcanoes, of which more than 130 are still active. In 1883, the Krakatau volcano fried the world with a devastating eruption that was more than 10,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. The eruption sent ash columns 27 kilometers into the air, affecting weather patterns around the globe for years to come. The eruption triggered 2 massive tsunamis that killed more than 36,000 people and destroyed 165 coastal villages. The sound from the eruption is said to be the loudest sound ever heard. The explosion was detected more than 4,600 kilometers away and covered 1/13 of the Earth's surface. Ash from the explosion fell as far as Singapore, 800 kilometers to the north, on Cocos Island 1,100 kilometers to the southwest, and onto ships more than 6,000 kilometers away. Indonesia's Sunda Strait was plunged into darkness for about 20 hours and tsunami waves reached more than 40 meters. Rafflesia arnoldii, the world's largest flower, is found in the country, especially in areas such as Sumatra. This flower is famous for its foul, corpse-like smell, a characteristic that sets it apart from most other flowers. Rafflesia arnoldii is a parasitic plant with no leaves or roots, and is completely dependent on its host plant for nourishment. The flower can grow up to 1 meter in diameter and weigh up to 11 kilograms. The flower only blooms for about 7 days and then quickly fades, making it a rare sight to see a Rafflesia arnoldii in the wild. Indonesia is the world's largest producer and exporter of palm oil, contributing significantly to the country's economy. 6. Kebo-Keboan Festival. According to legend, long ago, the people of East Java had just discovered agriculture. They had barely cultivated any crops or domesticated any animals, and focused on hunting. Since there was no help from livestock, all work required a lot of manpower, so there was a lot of work left. And then one day, Dewi Shri, the goddess of fertility, appeared before the villagers, leading a small herd of buffalo. These became the first livestock kept by the villagers. Today, the villagers also worship the goddess every year on the first 2 weekends after 1 Suro, the most sacred day in the Javanese calendar, and the buffalo spirits are said to possess the bodies of men. Early in the morning, about a dozen villagers are possessed by the ancient buffalo spirit. Chewing hay and moving like plodding animals, they slowly make their way to the temporary Dewi Shri shrine, stopping to wallow in mud and butt heads. This usually lasts for most of the morning, as the possessed men wallow in the mud of all the rice fields along the way to the shrine. Finally, when the procession reached the temple, offerings to Dewi Shri were presented by a priest. Finally, a few shamans performed a small magic ritual to exorcise the buffalo spirits that were residing in the men, causing them to vomit up all the hay they had eaten earlier. 7. Flags similar to Monaco. The flags of Monaco and Indonesia both have red on the top half and white on the bottom half, forming 2 horizontal bars. People will not be able to distinguish the flags of the 2 countries if they only look at the colors, because the only difference is the ratio. The Monaco flag has a ratio of 2 sides of 4:5. The red and white represent the 2 traditional colors of the powerful Grimaldi family in Monaco's history. According to Britannica, this flag was officially adopted on April 4, 1881. The Indonesian flag has a ratio of 2 sides of 2:3. Red represents courage, and white represents spirit. The flag was officially used on the day Indonesia declared its independence, August 17, 1945. 8. iPhone 16 banned in Indonesia. The Indonesian government has said it will not lift its ban on iPhone 16 sales, despite Apple's pledge to invest $1 billion in manufacturing in the country. While the company has agreed to build a factory, it has not met local content requirements. Indonesia requires devices sold there to have 35 to 40% of their components made locally. Before the ban in October 2024, Indonesia was a key market for Apple, with more than half of its 284 million people under the age of 44. 9. Over 700 languages. With over 17,000 islands, Indonesia's linguistic diversity is understandable. The country has 742 languages, only 78 less than the country with the most languages in the world, and Indonesia's neighbor, Papua New Guinea. Bahasa Indonesia is the country's official language, used for common communication between ethnic groups, education, and media. The vocabulary in Bahasa Indonesia is mainly borrowed from Dutch, Arabic, English, and indigenous languages. However, indigenous languages are still very important in the daily lives of Indonesians. In fact, 2 people on 2 neighboring islands may not understand each other. 10. Kopi Luwak. Kopi Luwak, the most expensive coffee in the world, is produced in Indonesia. The origin of Kopi Luwak dates back to the 18th century, when Indonesia was a Dutch colony. Dutch owners brought coffee here to grow. The local people were not allowed to use this type of coffee, so they were very curious and discovered that the civets excreted coffee beans because they could not digest them. The people took these beans to make drinks, and they were indeed delicious. When the Dutch heard about it, they also tried it and judged that the civet coffee was more delicious than the normal kind. After the civets eat the coffee beans, they will be digested through the civet's digestive system, which includes a chemical change that reduces the acidity and creates a special flavor. After the civets excrete the coffee beans, they are collected, washed, and processed to produce coffee. Although civet coffee has been around for a long time, it only really became widely known in the 20th century. Areas such as Bali, Sumatra, and Java are the main producers of civet coffee. This coffee is consumed both domestically and exported to many international markets. However, it should be noted that civet coffee production also raises some issues related to animal welfare, as some farms keep civets in poor conditions to produce this coffee. 11. The man married most times in the world. Khan, a 61-year-old farmer from Majalengka in West Java, Indonesia, became famous after telling his story to a YouTuber. The video quickly went viral and caught the attention of several newspapers. Of his 87 marriages, only 40 were registered with the Religious Affairs Office, while the others were marked by traditional weddings. Khan also did not divorce each time he remarried, as some of his wives did not want to divorce him. Therefore, at some point in his life, Khan may have had more than 2 wives at the same time. Khan's longest marriage lasted 14 years, but many of his other marriages lasted only a month or 2 or just a week. Indonesia is not only an attractive destination because of its natural beauty, but also a place that contains countless interesting stories about customs, traditions, and strange events. These special things not only show the richness of culture, but also highlight the special character of the people here. Stay tuned to discover more interesting things from cultures around the world.